Alright, I am back with another video, and today I have got another build request. Again, I'm getting through this massive backlog, although technically this isn't a backlog item. This is the fifth in a kind of video, massive recording session thing, where I am recording a bunch of videos in a single day. Now, in the process of recording these videos, my first video of the week, the Assassin's Creed build, has gone up. Somebody commented on there saying they would quite like to see a throwing dagger build, and I thought, you know what? I actually want to do that. So it got pushed up the list, and is today's build, which is Friday, whereas I recorded this on the Monday. So basically, I'm kind of decided to do something a little bit interesting with this character, because I think anybody who's played Baldur's Gate 3 extensively or has watched a lot of videos on build making probably already knows where I'm going to go with this. I mean, there's one way to make a kind of throwing build that's super powerful, but I wanted to challenge myself in a way that I can give it a kind of different vibe despite the classes we're using. So I've decided to try and make a rogue without making a rogue, and you'll see how I managed to achieve that in a minute. So, but first we're starting off as fighter for obvious reasons that we'll get to in a minute. Now, for your fighting style, thrown weapons are weird. I don't know if using the dueling fighting style with a dagger in one hand would apply that bonus to the throw, because I don't know if technically, because it is still a one-handed attack, it would still get the extra damage from dueling. I have absolutely no idea if this works or not, so I would like you guys to test it for me and kind of get back to me on that if you don't mind. But for the sake of getting a little bit of extra armor class and just overall knowing that this will work, let's grab defense for now. However, if you wanted to perhaps dual wield daggers with this, you could go for two weapon fighting as well, but just know you can only throw the dagger in your main hand for the purposes of this build. So anyways, let's keep going. Now, our stats are going to look a little bit weird, but I promise this all will make sense. Our strength is going to be at 17. We're going to be bumping this up with a half feet later. You already know the one. And also we can use the Potion of Everlasting Vigor to push it straight to 20. We also have Dexterity at 14 to give us a decent chunk to our armor class. We also have Constitution at 14 to give us a decent amount of health to start. Intelligence at 12, because it's going to matter for some abilities that are important, and I quite like the idea of this intelligence-based rogue, not rogue, having a little bit of like extra intelligence-based stuff, so I thought that was kind of neat. Wisdom at 10 and Charisma at 8. I don't think this one is very good at talking. However, I think I absolutely nailed the fashion here. I think it looks awesome. Anyways, as for our skill proficiencies, I have Stealth and Deception, I believe from the criminal background, with a buff to our Perception thanks to our race, that being the Drow. And also I want to take Proficiency in Athletics, because that does help our throwing. And the second one can kind of be whatever you like. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. I'm down to grab... Well, we don't really get any proficiencies from the intelligence-based skills as such, which sucks. So, you know what? We'll keep Intimidation, just in case. Next up at fighter level 2, we're going to get Action Surge. This is going to give us a big round of damage whenever we need it, basically giving us an extra action and therefore also an extra attack to use once per short rest, allowing us to throw our dagger with this and extra attack up to 4 times per turn, which is pretty good. At fighter level 3, we're going to be able to choose our subclass, and there's only one for it. You would have seen this coming. We are going for Eldritch Knight. This is going to give us the weapon bond feature. Ritually bind the weapon in your main hand. That's important. The weapon cannot be knocked out of your hand and automatically returns to you when thrown, meaning that we don't have to keep 1,000 daggers in our inventory, throwing them over and over again and then having to pick them all up when the battle is done. We're also going to be able to gain a couple of cantrips, and really, since our intelligence isn't our highest score here, I only want to grab some utility options, so I think Friends and Mage Hand fit on theme with this rogue, but not actually a rogue type deal, kind of giving us a sort of Mage Hand ledger domain, or whatever it's called from the Arcane Trickster, but not really, because it's not invisible, but hey, still, it's nice to have, and also Friends, because it's one of the best cantrips in the game. As for our spells, again, we're going to be going for utility options here, mainly Shield, which is going to be really nice in most situations, just as a reaction, and your second one can be Magic Missile if you just want another ranged option that can go around corners and the like, but again, it's not going to be your most powerful option. We also gain one expanded spell list option, and we get to take a kind of utility spell here, so I'm going to grab Featherfall, because I feel like with the kind of build that I'm going for here, with the ability to basically be able to move around quite a bit, we're going to want Featherfall a lot for those to be able to jump down from high places. Longstrider could also be useful here, but we don't really need it as much. And while Enhanced Leap would be useful, we are going to be supplementing this with an item, so I don't think it's as necessary here, so Featherfall feels like the best option that you're going to get the most use out of. Next up at Fighter level 4, we're going to be grabbing our first feat, and we're doing a throwing build, so you already know what we're going for. It is Tavern Brawler, as this is going to add our strength modifier twice to the attack and damage rolls of our thrown weapons, and allows us to bump our strength up to 18, using the Potion of Everlasting Vigor to turn this up to a 20, giving us the maximum possible damage on our thrown weapons right off the bat, which is awesome, something we absolutely want. And now, as for our spells, we have a few options here, but you can take really whatever you like. It really doesn't matter. Again, this is not really going to be something that we're focusing on. So Chromatic Orb just has a decent amount of utility, being able to create certain surfaces with its alternative attacks, such as ice surfaces, for example. Next up at Fighter level 5, we're going to be grabbing Extra Attack, which means now we can throw twice per turn, which is awesome again. This now brings up our action surge to be even more powerful as well, allowing for 4 throws per turn. Now, we could go into Fighter level 6 straight away, but I really want to get the second most important part of this build as early as possible, but feel free to take this extra feat if you feel like one of these stats really isn't doing it for you at this stage of the game, but I think where we're kind of in the middle of Act 2 at this point, is going to be doing okay, so we're alright to switch to our second multi-class, which is Barbarian. This is going to give us Rage, deal an extra 2 damage with melee improvised weapons, and throwing, so this means our throwing is going to do even more damage now while raging. Yes, this means we can't use our spells, which sucks, but really they're only for utility options anyway that are mostly used outside of combat, with maybe the exception being shield. However, so this is basically going to be a powerful option regardless most of the time in combat. We're also going to get unarmored defense, but I'm not using that here, but you can if you want to. I like spinning the character. Makes all the physics go wee. This is my 5th recording of the day. I'm slowly losing my mind. I'm going to stop. Level 2 Barbarian, we're going to grab a Danger Sense, which means we get advantage on dexterity saving throws against traps, spells, and services. Pretty good. We're also going to gain Reckless Attack, which we're not really going to be using because I don't think this interacts with throwing. However, if you are caught up in melee, this is still a nice extra option available to you. Next up at Barbarian level 3, we get to choose our subclass, and you already know what we're here for if you know about throwing builds. We're here for Berserker. This is going to turn our Rage into a Frenzy, allowing us to use Frenzied Strike, which lets us make a melee attack as a bonus action, but also Enraged Throw, allowing our throws to do a little bit of additional damage, and we can now throw as a bonus action and have a chance to knock our target prone. This is huge. This is super, super important. This means we're now going to be able to throw with attack, extra attack, and an enraged throw. Now, you may be thinking, well, now that we can throw as a bonus action, we should be going Thief to get a second bonus action. You can only use either Frenzy Strike or Enraged Throw once per turn, so it's not as useful as you might think. Don't get me wrong, taking those levels in Rogue would be useful, but again, I'm kind of doing this as a self-imposed challenge to not take those levels, and I actually think getting the extra feats from Fighter, which is what we're going to go back to after level 4 Barbarian, actually does end up being more useful in the long run for this type of strategy if you're focusing on throwing, which we are with this build, but again, if you wanted to play with a Thief Rogue dip as well, or not really dip, it's like another multi-class because you have to go 4 levels or 3, you can. It's not going to make this build anything weaker, it's only going to make it a bit stronger, because technically Frenzy Barbarian also lets you do improvised weapons as like a bonus action, so you could do that, but it's entirely up to you, so use what you like. But I'm just going to be going back to Fighter, rather. Now at Barbarian level 4, we're going to be grabbing an extra feat, and I want to bump up our Constitution so we have a bit more health. This just means we're going to be a bit better in most combat, and I feel like 16 is a good middle ground to stop with as far as HP goes. And the lovely thing about the way we've been doing this leveling means going back over to Fighter means we immediately get another feat. I'm going to grab another ability score improvement to bump up our dexterity to 16, giving us a bit more AC, although there are a few options here you can go with if you really want to. Mobile or Athlete would give you even more maneuverability to get in a position to throw things. Alert would give you +5 bonus to initiative, meaning you could get ready and set up right away, even if you're not expecting combat. There's a ton of different things you could do here. If you wanted to dual wield weapons with this build, dual wielder would actually work really well. Just remember that you would have to have your non-throwing dagger in the offhand, or whatever weapon you choose to do, but it could still work. It's entirely up to you. I mean, I don't think there's anything else that really interacts with throwing here, so use your best judgment, but I'm just going to be going with an ability score improvement. Next up at Fighter level 7, we're going to be getting some interesting little features here. We're going to be getting some extra spell slots, and we're also going to be grabbing Warm Magic. After you cast a cantrip, you can make a weapon attack as a bonus action. Not really going to be casting cantrips, really, at all, because we didn't take any offensive cantrips, so I don't even know why I brought it up. But we are going to get some level 2 spells at this point, and Darkness will always have some utility if you're not raging straight away. This can create an opening for your allies to do tons of damage, and since we're not really going to get much out of damage options here, I mean, you can take Scorching Ray, but Gust of Wind may also be something interesting you could use, or Mel's Acid Arrow. But Scorching Ray should do just fine for our purposes. And finally, at Fighter level 8, we're going to be getting our final feat. And again, I'm just going to take an ability score improvement, and I am quite happy to bump our dexterity up to 18 to give us even more armor class, and in general just help us out with our dex-based skills, allowing us to be even better at various dexterity-based abilities. And again, we already have strength at 20, so yeah. As for our expanded spell list, we get a few more options here, and I'm going to grab Misty Step as a nice little teleportation option. We are going to be getting it from an item, but not the one you might think. And so having it as an extra bit of utility to help yourself get set up before you rage and start throwing is really, really useful. And that is the build. Again, when you build with mostly martial classes, it's a bit more short, sweet, and straight to the point. However, what we're going to be getting out of this build is a lot of really cool things. Like I say, we can have our throwing weapon returned to us, so we can still have a signature weapon, even though we're yeeting them all across the... Damn! I've never seen that before. That was a nice little pose. This character's got some flair. Anyways, I got distracted. What was I saying? Yeah, so we can throw our weapons and have them returned to us. We have a few small utility options to help us with stuff in and out of combat, such as Misty Step, Mage Hand, Feather Fall, Friends, all that good stuff. And we also have all of our good Fighter and Barbarian goodies, such as Action Surge, Frenzied Strike, and, well, Frenzied Throw. So let's get into the actual equipment now. Again, I've never seen this before. I don't know why this character is doing this, but it's awesome. I like that pose. Let's get into the equipment. First off, the Marksmanship Hat. You get a +1 bonus to ranged attack rolls and thrown attack rolls, meaning our thrown attack rolls are more likely to land. We also have the Padded Armor +2. You take 2 less bludgeoning damage. This is just a really cool looking armor set, in my opinion, and I thought worked really nicely as kind of a roguish outfit for this build. Next up is the Gloves of Uninhibited Kushigo. The wearer deals an additional 1d4 damage with throw attacks, and attacks made with improvised weapons, meaning that our throwing damage is going to get even stronger. This can also be stacked upon with the Ring of Flinging, meaning we get an extra 1d4 bonus to throw damage, meaning we have a 2d4 bonus to our throwing attacks overall. Pretty good. I've also gone for the Boots of Speed, giving you the Click Heals ability, letting you spend your bonus action to gain speed and freedom of movement, which is kind of a better version of the Rogue's Cunning Action Dash, and there's no limitation on this. Even though it's from a piece of equipment, you can use this as many times as you like, as long as it's only once per turn. There's no short rest or long rest requirement, meaning we've essentially got the Rogue's Bonus Action Dash, which is really useful for helping us get into position to be able to do some throwing. Because with throwing, you want to be as high up as you can, because the more gravity and more distance that's in between you and the thing you're targeting, the more damage it's going to do. Meaning that the Amulet of Misty Step to give us Misty Step to allow us to teleport and get to position, or the Ring of Jumping to let us cast Jump as a bonus action to be able to get in, allowing us to triple our jump distance, is going to get us into position to do some massive throwing damage really, really quickly, and again plays into that rogue but not actually a rogue aspect by giving us high flying gymnastics and daring speed. Overall, it's quite interesting actually. The dagger I have chosen to go with is the Susa Dagger, which is just a +1 dagger, but it does have a chance to silence targets on hit, meaning that you can use this to take spellcasters out of a fight, which is actually super impressive, but really any dagger will work, and the higher the damage on the dagger, because it is a thrown weapon, the more damage your throw attacks will do. But these are all just solid options with the exception of the Marksmanship Hat. All of this equipment can be obtained in Act 1, I believe, so with that, this build comes online quite early, basically as early as level 3 really, to get you started with the Eldritch Knight returning weapon, and then at level 4 getting Tavern Brawler means you're pretty much going to be getting a huge amount of this build's power really early on. Then you add the Barbarian levels in, an extra attack, and by the time you're at Act 3, you may have gotten some better equipment as well. You will be absolutely unstoppable, which is awesome. So yeah, that is the build. I'm into exit the menu. Overall, I feel like this was actually a really fun idea to kind of experiment with. As you'll see in the combat footage now, I mean, if you know about throwing builds, you know they are super powerful, but I really wanted to kind of give my own twist on kind of this throwing dagger concept. I mean, obviously any thrown weapon is going to be powerful with this build. If you don't feel like you just want to do daggers and you want to give yourself a bit more oomph, javelins, spears, tridents, anything with the thrown property is going to do massive amounts of damage, and because of the way we've built this character, if you want to pick up a goblin and throw them, that also works, so feel free. But I kind of feel like if we want to stay with the kind of roguish aspect of this character, we definitely want to be kind of sticking to throwing our dagger to stay on theme. But anyway, I hope the person who requested this enjoys this build. I understand that they seemed quite enthusiastic about it, so I was quite happy to do it. Since this video... Hi all, post-editing me here. Didn't really sign off the video properly in the original recording, so I'm just doing a quick re-record here. I'm afraid this weekend there is not going to be another Halloween build. My next Halloween build is going to be on Halloween itself, and I'm kind of taking this weekend off to kind of, you know, have a bit of time off. I'm a bit busy that weekend, and there's just a few things I want to get done. So my next video will be on Monday, and then after that, my final Halloween build will be on Halloween itself, which is the Tuesday. So hope you all enjoy, and I'll see you all next time.